Dear Bramblings, it's your Uncle Luke here. Hello everybody, how's it going? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in to the next episode of the Dear Brambling podcast here. I'm so appreciative, and I'm also really excited to be bringing you this next conversation. I've been trying to think of some words to encapsulate this conversation, and one comes to mind, and that's beautiful. Yeah. I really do feel as though this is a beautiful conversation that I'm going to be giving you. And my guest today is Allan Morgan. Now, who is Allan Morgan? Great question. I'm so glad you asked. Well, Allan is a actor here in Vancouver, as well as a gay rights activist. Allan has toured across Canada with the Electric Company in Studies in Motion. He's appeared at the Belfry, in The Drawer Boy, Dirty Blonde, and Am I My Own Wife, for which he received the Victoria Critics Award for Best Performance. He's also known to do fundraisers for different charity events, one of which he raised over $2,000 for the Japanese tsunami relief. Apparently his lemon squares are to die for. Allan has also appeared in many different television and film shows such as Chili Dogs, First Wave, Andromeda, Beyond Belief, Fact or Fiction, The Collector, Romeo, Just Cuz, Bear With Me, Higher Ground, Outrage. He's also known to appear in the Vancouver summer event known as Bard on the Beach, the Shakespeare exposition here. And he has also been the recipient of 3 Jessie Awards, which is the Canadian equivalent of the Tony Awards. I'm really excited to be bringing you this conversation. I think it's really powerful. I think it's really personal. I just want to warn everybody that, yeah, we do have some colorful language. We do have some intense topics and themes. We're going to be talking about gay rights activism, as well as a lot of Allan's stories. Not to mention that I am recording this right here the day before my birthday, which I'm really excited about. However, my birthday does also bring up a lot of trauma, and it has been the year anniversary of Ryan's death. And yeah, I do talk about Ryan's death with Allan here. It's actually really nice to have Allan hold some space for my grief there, as well as share his own. Now, I don't want to hold you up any longer. I think it might be best that we just dive right into this conversation right now, and I'll see you on the other side. Sound good? See you guys. Well, Allan Morgan, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to see you. How are you doing today?
Luke, I'm doing all right today. Thank you very much for asking. It was late rising, but other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, the play was fine. No, I'm good.
Well, awesome. Yeah, I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast, and I'm very excited for the conversation we're about to have.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just curious, would you be down to maybe tell me a little bit about your story? Introduce yourself, some little fun facts, I don't know, maybe a little story from maybe when you're a kid or wherever you like to start. But who's Allan Morgan?
My Allan Morgan. Allan Morgan was a young man, a young fella from Guelph, Ontario, in southern Ontario. That's where I was born. I have 2 brothers. I have a mom and dad who stayed together for all of their relationship in my life.
Okay.
So far, they're gone. But okay. I was the good boy. I was the middle boy, so I'm the diplomat. So my younger brother was sort of a mistake, an accident, you might say. I have an older brother who's gay as well, so I'm gay. I'll tell you that right off the top. I don't know what it was. It was an art-influenced life. I loved reading aloud. I liked art. I liked all of that sort of stuff. I accelerated in school so that that was detrimental, I think, in the long run. So I just did half a year of grade 3, half a year of grade 4, and went into grade 5. So by the time I went to high school, grade 9, I think I was 12.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Right? So I was still building forts. And everybody else was necking in basements at parties, and it was like, so that was strange. And I think that became stranger. It's very hard. I would never let anyone accelerate. There's ways to do it, I guess, differently now. And I don't think they do it as often. Anyway, I was always interested in cooking. My father was a veteran. He was also a truck driver, grade 6 education from a small farming village in Ontario.
Wow.
He went to war, came back a changed man. My mother was a nurse. They met working at a hospital in Guelph. And they were great to me and great to my brothers. And always, I could learn to knit. I could learn to cook. I made my father eat I think it was called a lily pad salad once, which was chopped lettuce and an egg cut like a lily flower. And, he ate it. He didn't say, this is ridiculous or anything. He just went along that this is his kid. And I think he was I like to believe that one of the things he fought for in that war was that his children could be whatever the hell they wanted to be.
Wow.
They could be gay if they were, and we were. And although I never told it to him directly, he knew and understood. I mean, he came to visit us out here. He stayed with my brother and his husband, and, so it was over the way. But I never said it to his face. I did, however, say it to just before they closed the casket. I just said it to him once. Yeah.
Wow.
I saw my brother go up and say something to him, and I went, I'm going to go up and say something too. Anyway, that was after giving his eulogy. He was a fine man.
Yeah.
My mother outlived him for a long time, and she was a very important part of my life. So what did I do? Then, I went to high school, left that early, and ended up in Europe, in Switzerland. Yeah. For a year, working in a kitchen in 2 different hotels, one in a ski resort and one in a lakeside resort during the summertime, where I met, I'll tell you the story. I got this job I was working at a restaurant outside of Guelph. It was a steakhouse. It was a really nice old mill that they'd redone. And there was a woman, I worked in the kitchen as a dishwasher. I was 15 or 16, no, 17, I guess. And this woman was Swiss, and she asked me if I would like to, she knew I wanted to be a chef or to study cooking. Would I like to go to Switzerland? I said, yeah. So she arranged the whole thing with some family members and stuff like that. And she met me there. She was going to be on vacation there anyway. So she met me in Zurich and took me to where I was in Bern, outside of Bern, to her family's hotel, for a small hotel up in the Alps. It was so beautiful. It was like unreal. And I stayed there for a month with them before I went down the hill to this other hotel where I was going to work for the summer as a cook's help. And the manager of the hotel, Herr Roper, from Hamburg, met me, and he took me to the staff house, which was this old rundown place, kind of fabulous in its way. And when we walked in, as soon as we walked in, this is where all the kitchen staff lived. There was this loud, it was David Bowie playing, and it was Panic in Detroit from Aladdin Sane, the album Aladdin Sane, which had just come out.
Wow.
And it was really loud, and Mr. Herr Roper was pissed off at that, but couldn't say anything because, their day off. So he showed me my room and left me, and music was coming from the room next door. And the door was open. So I sort of gingerly walked in, and there was a young guy in a tight sort of shirt with stars all over it and sort of jeans and eyes closed, dancing to this song by himself.
Okay.
And his name was Heinrich Reinmann. And in about 2.5 seconds flat, we became the best friends ever. He was the first person I ever came out with.
Yeah.
We never had sex, but we formed a friendship that lasted all of his life and continues in mine.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
He's a great guy. He came to visit me in Canada 2 or 3 times, met my parents,
Yeah.
my brother. He moved to Australia. My brother and his husband went and visited him, and he was a big part of my life. Sadly, he died due to complications from AIDS.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
But 1993, it was a huge moment for me because as people, we just sort of expect, that's the way the world will go. This is my buddy, and we'll see each other till we pass, and that'll be shortly after each other, or within a few minutes. But he died very young.
Wow.
It's really sad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
But
thank you for sharing.
We had such a great time. Yeah. We created our own language together, sort of. He taught me High German. He was Swiss himself, which is a very different language. But, well, it's not a different language. It's a very similar language, but it just has a different pronunciation about everything. But so we would speak German and English and a little bit of Swiss German and French and whatever we could cobble together. It got better. We got better at communicating. He loved smoking dope.
Yeah.
And so did I. And we would go to Basel together, hitchhike to Basel together and buy dope. And eventually by the end of the season, I think we had almost everybody in that hotel smoking dope. We would come back with huge blocks of everything. Here's your order and here's your order. Much fun.
Oh my gosh.
They called us Hashish Bruder. We were Hash Brothers.
The Hash Brothers. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just noticing you said 1993. Is that when that happened?
When he passed.
When he passed?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I was doing a show in Vancouver, and a mutual friend came to see the show. It was closing night, and it had been a big show for me. It was called Lilies, and I ended up winning a Jesse Richardson Award for Best Performance by an Actor.
Oh my gosh, wow.
In a leading role. And that night, at closing night, this friend of mine said, "Hey, Al, I got some bad news." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Heinrich had died."
Wow.
Could have wrecked the work tonight, but...
Yeah. Wow.
That's what happens.
That's so hard.
It's life, isn't it? Isn't it insane that we're all going to die?
You can say that again. Wow.
And it's like this big secret. It's just like...
It is, yeah.
Everybody goes on and on and on.
And it's like, how can we just go on when we lost something so significant, right?
Oh, and over again. It's the entire world. It's all the... You just know. I mean, death and taxes, right? That's what they say. I try and avoid taxes and I can't avoid death, but
Yeah. No, wow.
You talked about grief. You mentioned grief in
our little emails. Yeah, I'm relating very hard to what you're saying in some way, but what was just kind of fascinating that I'm noticing is I'm not trying to make anyone feel old, but no. I was born in 1993.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it's been my whole lifetime that you've been away from him, and that's a lot for me to absorb too.
How old are you then? 30? 30?
I'm 30, yeah. I just turned 30 this year. Yeah.
Like that 93 makes you 30. Wow.
I know.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So no, I worked in Switzerland in 73.
Oh, wow. On my 30th birthday.
Yes.
I think some of the listeners will already know the story, but yeah, I was having a lovely night. My mom organized a birthday party for me at a local pub here, and it was karaoke night, and I love to sing. And, you know, it was simultaneously the best day of my life, and then so quickly became the worst day of my life because my childhood friend, they actually surprised me that night. I was not expecting them to show up, him and his parents. And his parents left, my mom left, a lot of people. It was like 1 a.m. We're getting kicked out of the bar, and it was like me and my brother and my cousins and my old childhood friend, Ryan. And we wanted to go to one of the parks nearby. And he decided, as we were walking down the stairs to the park, he wanted to slide down the railings of the stairs.
Oh, no.
And I looked at him. I said, "Don't do that." The moment he propped himself up onto the railing, and he fell backwards about 50 feet.
Oh, fuck.
And I dropped everything. I ran down the stairs. There was a bit of a cliff from the stairs. There's a fence I had to climb over. And then I looked at my brother, and he's like, "Luke, that's a huge drop." And like, "I'm okay. I'm going to be okay." And I slid down the cliff.
Yeah.
And I met him, and my cousin somehow made his way down too, but we were performing CPR until paramedics announced him dead.
Oh my God, Luke, I am so sorry.
Yeah. So, you know, losing a friend.
How long ago was that now then?
Just in March. So we're end of November, so I guess this is now 7, 8 months now.
It's so inconceivable how quickly everything can change. It's really,
Yeah, there's a word that I've been discovering recently, and it was actually coined by John Koenig, who wrote the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, or he's still writing it, but
yeah.
he came up with this word called canopsia, and I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but canopsia is the eerie, forlorn feeling we get when we go to a place that was once full of life, but is now empty and abandoned.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a very accurate word to describe my experience, because in just seconds, I saw a guy so full of life, maybe a little too drunk, smiling, celebrating my birthday, and then in a matter of seconds, I find him lifeless.
Mm-hmm.
And, to go to a place like the human body that is now vacant of the essence that is our being.
It's amazing. It's so profound when you see it and experience it. It's so profound.
It is,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
The spark is not there, the animation, the life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, how very, very fucking different. What an awful, awful, wonderful, just an awful, ugh.
No, like two things can happen at the same time. I was just saying awful and wonderful. It's true. It was awful and wonderful. It's
and that
weird.
You remember his face. That you said, what was his name?
Ryan. Yeah.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a surreal experience. And I was just noticing just there when I said awful and wonderful, for these past 8 months, I've been saying wonderful and awful in that order, wonderful and awful.
Right.
But that just take that moment to switch it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a weird experience. I'm just having like a moment right now with you where I'm realizing like maybe his death was wonderful. That's just a really...
That's a hard one.
It's a hard statement to sit with, but...
Yeah, no. I know that out of really horrible incidents, my friend, I don't know the name of the book, so I can't quote it, but it happened when I broke my neck, which I recently did last year, broke my neck.
Oh, wow.
And she told me, and as I meditated on it, because I had 3.5 months to meditate, just sort of lying here watching the curtains flow. And I was so happy that I was still here, watching the curtains blow, because I realized that the line post what I had, a broken neck, that's enough, but it could easily have been quadriplegic, paraplegic, dead.
Yeah.
All three were options, and not very far from what happened to me. It would have been easy for that to occur. So out of this really bad thing came a lot of really great things eventually, or if you look at them. And she was telling me about a book she read. It was all filled with these sort of incidents. And one of them she told me was a woman who was getting married but got stood up at the altar, and it was horrible. But she decided, well, I've spent all this money and everybody's come from everywhere. Let's have this party. And she did. And in recalling that day, she went, oh, my God, thank God I didn't marry him, because he was an idiot. And she found out at the last minute, and in an awful way, but there was that silver lining, or whatever you want to call it. There was some way of looking at it that was positive. There was some way of looking at my broken neck that was positive.
Yeah.
Eventually.
You say that, and I'm reflecting a little bit on Ryan's funeral, which was held on his birthday on May 6th. And I got to meet his close friends.
Yeah.
And something that I think I'm really grateful for was meeting his friends, but also there is a story that his best friend told me, and it's a little nerdy, a little silly, very short.
Yeah.
But it taught me so much. The story, his friend told me how he really wanted to watch this Japanese cartoon with him called One Piece. And it's a cartoon all about pirates and being free and friendship. And it's a really inspiring cartoon for a lot of people. And it also has over 2,000 episodes. And he was telling Ryan, like, let's watch this. I want to watch this with you. And Ryan would say, well, maybe when I get a better TV, we can do that. Maybe when I finally move out.
Right.
And then he died.
Yep.
I never got that chance to watch this cartoon with him. And that's the end of the story. But the incredible gratitude that I'm filled with when hearing the story is that we shouldn't wait for the things that we want in life, right?
No, never.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Have you ever thought of watching it with your friend, his friend?
That's a great idea, actually. Maybe I could propose that. Yeah.
Even remotely. You could watch it together somehow.
Yeah.
Just have that maybe on his anniversary or something. I don't know.
That's a great idea. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I think it would be a nice thing to do because there's something in there that he knows your friend, that Ryan would have liked.
Yeah.
And if Ryan would have liked it, you would have liked it too. So, yeah. I'm so sorry that happened.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit that must have been. Like, how do you phone the people? And
I did. Currently, that's what my PTSD has been all about, is the fact that, like, a few moments later after the paramedic told me that he had died, I called his brother and I told him the news. And then I called his mom and I told her the news. And then we were walking towards my cousin's car and I saw his mom and his dad drive up. And then I saw his mom run out of the car, and then, I saw her scream over his body.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's where my PTSD is at right now. Keeps flashing back in really mundane moments, too. Brushing my teeth, right? I look at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, remember seeing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
It's a great question. My counselor gave me some of the best advice for this, and it's still messy, but it's the best I've got, but it's give yourself permission to surrender.
Okay.
So when it comes to the PTSD, when it comes to the grief or the trauma, I believe it was the famous psychologist Carl Jung that would say, what we resist persists. And if we take that at heart, if I'm going to resist my PTSD or trauma or grief, it's going to be persisting. And so, to give myself permission to surrender simply means that if I am having a traumatic moment, then I am having a traumatic moment, and I have to just let myself feel it, right?
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah. I'm so very sorry, Luke. Well, it's just like my friend Heinrich. It was like, what was so hard about it was that it was a life lesson that there's no guarantees, right? Until that point, I had really assumed that somehow I would go to Australia. Like, we were very, very close friends.
Yeah.
Even the distance, it made no difference. It was like, he was a soulmate. He was a bona fide soulmate. And I changed him and he changed me. And his friendship was a huge gift. To go halfway across the world and to find someone who just knew me somehow. We loved the same music. We went and saw the Rolling Stones together in Zurich, and in a hall with 3,000 people. And, it was pretty magic.
Yeah.
What we had. And we would get high and go. I'll tell you a story. We were on a lake called the Lake of Thun, and it's beautiful. We were right across from a mountain called La Pyramide de la Suisse. It was very, from our angle, it looked like a pyramid.
Yeah.
But there was all sorts of streams that would come down in, and of course they came from the Alps, so they could be very powerful streams at times, and they would carve out quite a chasm. So there was one, we used to go up there and smoke dope on this bench, and it was along this path. It's not so much a granny state as it is here. They don't have fences along the paths. So this path went along this cavern, huge, it was a long way down. It was a long way down, but it was a paved path. So we got quite loaded. It was a beautiful night. We're in the Alps, and we decided we'd keep walking up this path to see what happened. Well, it went along, and then it went into this, it was overcovered with bush, so we couldn't see a bloody thing, no lights. So we were on our hands and knees, just ascertaining where the pavement was, right? And walking forward, just making sure we didn't slip off the side. And that went on for a long time, and we laughed hysterically because we were just so frightened and terrified and stupid. And eventually, you could see up ahead that the trees that are covered the path were letting go. And we came out into this meadow pasture, and we were up in the Alps.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a full moon. The grass was sort of blowing. It was at night, but you could see perfectly. And in Switzerland, the cows all have bells on, right? And they all have different bells on. So you can hear up in the Alps, like just this symphony of cowbells off in the distance playing. And Heinrich and I just ran like fools in that and collapsed in the meadow and just laughed. And we spent most of the night there just like work yesterday. The next day was pretty shit, but it was like something we shared. It was just like this magic time, right? It was like, didn't need any words, didn't need anything, didn't need, well, the drugs helped, but but also it was just like two fucking 18-year-olds, 18-year-olds just in tune with each other, you know? And it was like, fuck the world. We were having a great time. We're gay. They don't know. We're cool. We like the same music. And
well, it sounds like you two belonged with each other. Like you had this like sense of belonging with each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And he was great. He met all my friends here, and you know, my mother loved him, and yeah, he's a good guy. Anyway, gone.
Wow.
But I always bring him back. I always remember him, and that's what I do. You know, because it's not that I'm sad, but I just bring them forward because I mean, you know, sometimes I go to the AIDS Memorial and read people's names out loud during Pride Week.
Yeah.
Just stand on a rock and read them out loud. People think I'm nuts, but who cares?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's just to bring them forward to say, you did this too. You know, you're here. I'm proud I knew you. You know, I'm proud I know Heinrich. We were hitchhiking home once from Basel with their pockets full of hash. And we weren't getting a ride. It was late, early in the morning. And we had magic markers with us for some reason. So in this concrete underpass, we drew a huge Canadian flag and a big Swiss flag, red and white, red and white. And then in between them, we wrote forever.
Oh.
For immer.
Wow.
One day I'll get that tattoo.
Aw. I hope you do.
I do too. I should.
That's beautiful. Oh my God. Oh.
Yeah.
It's so, oh gosh, yeah. There's nothing like it to feel like you belong with someone. Right?
And that being said, you know, I don't listen to relationships. Are you in a relationship? Do you have a partner?
I'm not, no.
Have you had one?
I've never actually had a partner, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm an interesting soul, but that's interesting. Like, there's actually a quote I wanted to run by you.
Sure.
It's from this book called Atlas of the Heart.
Oh, yes. I don't know it, but good name.
Right? Isn't it a great name?
Mm-hmm.
But it says, we have to belong to ourselves as much as we need to belong to others. Any belonging that asks us to betray ourselves is not true belonging. Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I was just curious. When I say that, is there anything that comes up? Any thoughts?
Can you read it again for me, please?
Absolutely. We have to belong to ourselves as much as we need to belong to others. Any belonging that asks us to betray ourselves is not true belonging.
That's a very difficult quote for me, I think, you know. I've betrayed myself severally over time, you know. I don't always do what's right for me. And I sell myself, especially in the arena of sexuality and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
It's very easy for someone of my age, and I don't mean to just slough it off, but I was forged in a cauldron of hate, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
I knew that I could never say what I was. As soon as I knew what I was, I couldn't say it. Inherently, I knew that. No one said you can't say that, but you just know you can't.
Yeah.
And so I was 14 when I went to see Romeo and Juliet by Franco Zeffirelli in 1968, just released. And I think Romeo and Juliet is a play that's made for teenagers only. It's the only kind of people that will believe that kind of love. Yeah. Anyway, that being said, that was my generation's Romeo and Juliet. And it was beautiful. And I was like depressed afterwards, so sad. And then a couple of days later, I was at my locker in high school, and the girl next to me opened her locker, and I looked, and there was a picture of, I have it here somewhere, of Romeo.
Yeah.
Leonard Whiting was Romeo. And it was instant, and it was like, just like laser fast. I just went, I'm not depressed because she died. I'm depressed because he died.
Oh, wow.
Him, just him. Not her. I was in love with him.
Mm.
And instantly you just go, you zip it, you know? What he's, hey, to the girl next to you, know, I think he's cute, eh? Like, fuck, I'd be killed, you know? So you
Wow.
know that instantly. So you have a whiff of it, you know that it's out there somewhere, and then you begin to look for it
Yeah.
somehow as you go on. You know, I hitchhiked a lot, so I met it that way. That's where I came up against it first. And then, so I was always, I hated what I was, really. How could you not?
Yeah.
I used the term as everyone else did. Well, he's probably a fag,
Yeah.
you know, because you want to divert from
Yeah.
yourself. I mean, I came out when I was 21. Even then, that was early. You know, it was in the 70s. My parents were great. And, you know, even to this day, people like, well, you know, it's not that easy. I still get concerned for people holding hands on the street, you know. I've only ever done it once. And that
Mm-hmm.
was in San Francisco,
Mm-hmm.
which is beautiful. I'll tell you that story. But so the heart, have I done things that are bad for me? Like, I think that that's sort of the essence of it. Like, I've betrayed myself severally
Mm.
to make them feel better, the guy, or what they need, what they want, not what I need.
Yeah.
The last relationship I had with a man, I just said when I got out of that one, which was a real difficult, oh my God, it was awful.
Yeah.
If you ever hear me say the word relationship and monogamy again, just come over to my house and punch me. Just I have to do that. Not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't necessarily have to do that. There's others that I've made sworn to do that.
Yeah.
But, and everybody says, oh, but you're so, you know, you're active and you're gay, you're openly gay and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And it's like, because if I do anything like that, it's not so much for me. It's so that some 12-year-old kid can just live his life,
Yeah.
wear what he wants and be who he wants.
Wow.
That's really it. Because I know what it was like. We
Mm.
all do, you know, and it's gotten progressively better and better, but there's still, the world is homophobic.
I know. It is. Yeah.
Like, you know, when the Russian Olympics, I was huge, like, you know, boycott the Olympics. Why isn't anybody? And that's when it was a turning point for me that I just went, the world doesn't fucking care. It really doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yes, the Western liberal democracies all sent envoys that were gay or, you know, openly gay and stuff like that. Nobody boycotted the Olympics.
Mm.
If it had been black people he'd been after or Jewish people he'd been after or anything else he'd been after, he would have done something. And fair enough. Good. It's just that my people are not afforded that same right. They're being hunted down in this country and killed. And that's okay. How is that okay? It's not okay. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We only have ourselves. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, great. Everybody's nice now. And I'm so happy to see all these parents fighting for their kids and stuff like that. But until you go election to election, knowing whether you're good or not, you don't have a clue, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
America's so scary right now I think so many gay people are just, anyway, sorry.
No, thank you.
It's happy things.
No, thank you for sharing. This quote is very meaningful to me just because, I mean, it goes so hand in hand with like my feelings of grief as well.
Aha.
Because like I said, in one moment I saw my friend alive and existing, and then the other moment he was lifeless and his existence was gone. And it really just makes me feel like our existence is so special and it's meaningful, it's important. And to live a life where you feel as though your authentic existence shouldn't exist,
Yeah.
it's one of the greatest betrayals ever. And yeah, I mean, what really resonates with me, especially as someone who's never had a relationship, is that at least I can belong with myself, right? And maybe that's one of the biggest pursuits in life, is to like find a way to be happy in your own skin.
Oh, yeah. I think
Yeah.
so. I think that's right. And I think that connected to what we were talking about before a little bit too, is like to find that way to be happy with yourself. You know, I get better at that. There's a lot of things I get better at, but some things that just travel along that road. But yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say again, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. Yeah.
That is like a very profound experience within the space of however many minutes it took. That is the most profound experience. It's It's
Yeah.
something a person your age should not have to see. To somebody older, it shouldn't occur. And that's life. And how do you pick yourself up? How do you, not just you, I'm talking about in any situation like this. Look
Yeah.
at people that survived the Holocaust
Oh, God.
and and still could smile. How's that possible?
I
I don't know.
know. It's almost as if grief and trauma and all that darkness makes the light shine brighter, makes the joy sparkle a little bit more. I've heard it said that the most joyful people in the world have the greatest gratitude practice.
Mm,
And for me, gratitude can't really be felt unless you really know what it means to lose something.
mm,
And to lose something like that, it really makes you grateful for the things that you do have, right? And so
mm-hmm.
then time slows down a little bit and you slow down a little bit and you start noticing the small little intricate things that just make those moments worthwhile. And it sounded like what you're saying is like just watching the curtains blow when you're healing from your injury. It's just those little things to just be like, wow,
Yeah.
wow, I'm alive.
I spend a lot of time taking pictures on my phone of flowers.
Yeah.
Flowers are, I think they're miraculous. They're a miracle. And they come up every year. And within the ground, there's like a million flowers.
Yeah.
They're not here now, but they're going to come.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to start just that small. And I get excited when those things begin because it's life. It's one of the reasons I moved here was, I come from Ontario, which is a long, long, long winter, beautiful fall, intense, stupid, humid summer, but a long, long winter. And here in Vancouver, if it's a good year, I see sprouts at the end of January. So that period of death or dormancy is so much shorter here.
Yeah.
And hallelujah, hallelujah. Because to me, spring is like, it's beauty. It's just, I can be stopped dead in my tracks by something beautiful. And if I don't acknowledge it or take a picture of it, I find myself going back, take a picture of it later or something. I have to, there's something I see. And it's about sharing because I just want other people to see that beauty that I see. Jessica told me that she got funding for me when I originally started there during the pandemic because I was out on my bike taking pictures all the time and I would share them on Facebook. And because so many people and so many of my friends are older women were not going out on anything, they were all, I was their eyes on the street, right? And they were experiencing spring through my eyes. And that the funders who she was applying for funding to fund me liked that very much. And they termed me a life artist. And I just love that. I just love that term, life artist.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. I also decorated my bike during the pandemic for every event that happened. And I left everything on. And there's lights and all sorts of things. So by the end of it, my bike was just like a float. It was like...
Really?
But what that did was, at a time when people weren't talking to each other, it allowed people to talk to me because they would see my bike. Sometimes it'd be their children. Mom, look. And then Mom would talk and we'd talk. But oftentimes it wasn't. Oftentimes it was just people at stoplights, or the best ones were always guys.
Yeah.
Men. I was downtown. I was just walking my bike and standing waiting for a light. And there was a fellow, a businessman, a good-looking, well-dressed, middle-aged, but younger than me. Good-looking fellow walked towards me. And as he passed, he said, "I really like your bike."
Nice.
I said, "Oh, thank you. Thank you so much." And he walked away, and I was sort of, waiting for the light to change. And then I heard him say, "Hey." And I turned, he had about halfway down the block, and he said, "No, I really like your bike." I just thought I thought that was brave. I thought it was really brave of him. A couple of other times, one guy came to me. I was waiting at the SkyTrain, and he was a South Asian fellow, and he came up and he leaned into me and he said, like conspiratorially, he said, "I really like your bike." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And he looked around and he said, "I'm going to tell you something. Most guys won't say anything, but they like it too."
Oh,
Isn't that sweet? I
yeah.
just thought it was so sweet. It was like, Okay, because I would expect and I did get the other, a little bit of, oh, it's a Merry Christmas or something like that. Anyway, but yeah, it was a really great experience actually having a bike like that. Anyway,
Yeah,
and because it's like sharing,
it is.
it's sharing my pictures, it's sharing beauty, it's sharing something that's really, I think, kind of cool.
Yeah, I'd love to see this bike one day. I don't think I've seen it.
Oh, it's sitting out on my balcony right now.
Okay, well, that's okay.
I use it as a light fixture in the summer in the patio. Turn the lights
Really?
on.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
Lights on my new bike.
No, I love that. What I especially love is that one story about, crossing the street and the one guy had to just stop you.
Yep.
And just like, no, really,
Yeah.
I really like the bike.
He thought that I had not taken it in enough. It really, he was making sure I got, I just thought it was very powerful, actually.
Yeah.
And there was another guy who's, I was at Burger King downtown on Granville Street. I had bought a burger and ate it inside. And I came out, the guy said, he was standing there on his bike, with his bike. And he said, is that your bike? And I said, yeah. And he said, do you know how many people take pictures of your bike? And I said, no. He said, lots of people. They love it. They love your bike. I said, oh, thanks. He said, I love it too. A couple of days later, it might have been a week later, I was at Safeway on Commercial Drive, and I came out, and there he was by my bike, on his bike. And he said, hey, man, I knew it was you. How are you? People still taking pictures of your bike. I had my bike helmet is all bejeweled. And so you could tell that I belonged to the bike. And I was in Nestor's down in Gastown there, just on the edge of Gastown. And I was shopping, and these two chicks came in, and they were really nice-looking women, tats, and really good-looking, funky girls.
Yeah.
And they were like, are you the bike owner? And I said, yeah, should we fucking love your bike?
Aww.
I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I came out once, and there was a woman taking the jewels off my bike and putting them on her face. And I was like, I just let her have it until she was done and she walked away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, something's coming to mind for me, and I don't know, maybe this is like an aside, maybe this is like some weird tangent, but for some reason I'm just thinking about this concept that I was learning about called foreboding joy.
Foreboding joy.
Yeah, so it's this moment when a joyful thing arises, but then our thoughts start telling us all these reasons why we don't deserve it. So I've described this a few times, but it's school's going great, or maybe work's going great, or relationships are going great. And then suddenly your thoughts are like, fuck, when's the earthquake going to hit? When's the shoe going to drop? When's the bad thing going to happen? And then you start dress rehearsing and catastrophizing and preparing yourself for when the bad thing's going to happen. But it's in that moment where you forebode the joy, where you kind of tell yourself that I'm not worth it. I don't deserve to feel joy.
Yep.
So I'm going to justify all these reasons why I'm not going to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it sounds like in these moments, there's this great strength in resisting the foreboding joy when people are like, Allan, I love your bike.
Oh, yeah.
You could maybe tell yourself a lot of thoughts of oh, they're just saying that. Oh, it's not actually that great. Oh, it's not this. But I don't think anyone would say anything if they actually didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just what's coming up.
Foreboding joy is great. For me, it's yes, foreboding joy. And no wonder for you. Okay, I just want to say that. You've had that in the one day, in the one moment, in 5 minutes, in the same instant, was maximum joy. And then just
maximum grief. Yeah.
Maximum grief, just in seconds. So no wonder. But for me, if I float an idea, it's like a little flower coming up, right? If I say, it's just jewels and stuff like that. Somebody says, what a ridiculous idea. Then it's dead. It kills the joy. Mm-hmm. It all it takes, and I try to practice it now myself with others, is that's kind of a cool idea. How would you do that? Or whatever. It's just, which is a drop of water and a bit of fish fertilizer for your whatever idea you have.
Yeah.
If you can nourish it a little bit, get it so it's not so small. But I've cut down more of those things, and care to admit, because somebody just had some offhand stupid comment about it. With the bike, I became inured of that. Like there were people in my building. It's a guy up here, just on my floor, bicyclist too, older guy. Oh shit, man! Is that yeah? I don't know how you drive around in that, And I'm like, well, luckily you don't have to. It's like
exactly.
It's just me.
Yeah.
Eventually I got to the point where it's like, I don't care what you say. The bike's saying I love it. It was just like not in any way like fuck you, but it was. It was like fuck you. If you're going to give me your idea of this thing, I'm going to be secure in what it is. And what it was I got that idea from other people a lot. And so, it was this one kid, and I was up near Cornwall, near Kitts Beach, stopped at waiting for the traffic, and this young guy on his bike, I think he was, in my mind, he was an English as a second language student studying at UBC or something. And his English wasn't great, but he said, he made me know that he loved my bike. And I was doing it because you like to share joy with people, don't you? And I was like, I said to him, I have no idea who you are, but you gave the best answer yet, and I'm going to use it,
Oh.
I do this just to bring joy to people. And it did, It was like, people still, they talk about my helmet. I love your helmet. Thank you.
Aww.
It's nice.
Yeah, I love that. And, something that's also coming up to me when you mentioned growing those ideas, I think about safety for some reason. I think about how, a flower can't really blossom unless it feels safe enough in its environment to do so.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious, what do you do to help you feel safe to do these artistic things? What do you do? Or do you say something to yourself? I don't know. Does that make sense?
What it did bring up for me was tending those flowers is right now, I feel like that is where we are at with trans kids. And I think that a lot of families feel that way too, that we were allowed. They're growing this garden and they now need to protect it from the winds of hell. And so they're circling so hard. And so whenever I see a kid that I think is whatever, I'm there for them. Like this one kid who liked my helmet and liked some stuff that was pink. He said, oh, I love pink. And his father was not a good man, I could tell. He said, well, pink. And I just ignored the father. And I said, I love pink. Pink's okay. It's good for you. It's probably a great color for you. You don't worry. You're going to be okay. And just having said that, you hope that he holds on to that somehow, that if he's getting beaten for having a pink shirt, he's going to go, but that other guy said something good.
Yeah.
I always remember that when I was fucked up about, being homo, and that I could read in a magazine, but often sometimes in my dentist's office or something like that, because we didn't get Time magazine at my house, but oh my God, there's a gay guy, a homosexual guy running for office in San Francisco. He didn't win, but wow, that's a lot of votes. He still got a lot of votes. Yeah. Somewhere it's okay. Somewhere I just have to get out of here. Somewhere it's okay.
Yeah.
So trying to nurture that in others, somewhere it's okay. You're going to be okay. I love what you're doing. This is great.
Yeah.
Or my permission as well. Like by doing it for others, it sinks into me. Like one of the things when I broke up with this partner I had, my brother kept saying, you have to get money from him. And I was like, I fucked up. I can't ask him for money. And he said to me, what I came to understand was if I was a woman and I was in a relationship with a man and my girlfriends would say to me, you stay, you need to get some of the money from him. That's what I would counsel my friends to do as a woman, So I stayed. Anyway, it's okay. Got money.
Yeah.
No satisfaction, but...
It's funny because I wanted to ask you about, what is it like to be an activist? What's the most important part about being an activist? But, we dove into that topic without even addressing it because it sounds like to be an activist is to create a safe space for other people and in turn creates a safe space for ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I will tell you a story. My activism started when I was living in Toronto. When I first came out there in Toronto, when I'd come back from living in Switzerland, and I met first Canadian gay people I met, and they were quite wild, a hairdresser, and they were like this, this very la-di-da.
Mm-hmm.
But we went to see a play. We went to see the play Hosanna, which was in 1974, 75, I think, at Toronto Workshop Productions in the ghetto in downtown Toronto. And Hosanna was about a drag. Do you know the play? It's a Canadian play about a drag queen and her motorcycle lover. It's Halloween night. She's gone dressed as Elizabeth Taylor and Cleopatra, and everyone had a better costume. They did it on purpose to put her down. And, it's a night of the fights between the two of them. It was not my story particularly, but it was gay. And it was a gay audience, and it was a gay story, and it was moving, and it was electric. Mm-hmm. And it was shortly after that. And that's what I think is so important, is that representation matters. Like seeing yourself on stage, you go, hold on, we belong. We fucking belong, And it was shortly after that Anita Bryant came to Toronto, to North York. And my friends, the hairdresser and Michael, who was also studying to be a chef, we all went. It was like, that was the call. It was like, no, she's saying, that we don't deserve special rights. She's making this up. It's bullshit. And if we don't fight, who's going to? And so I remember distinctly, freezing cold. You had to keep marching. There was a huge group of parents who were screaming at us. Mm-hmm. But we kept marching, and my friends Sally and Sue, they came from Kitchener, all the way from Kitchener to march in that thing. And we heard them at one point. They were, every party needs a pooper. That's why we invited you. Anita Bryant. And people saying that. But that was the beginning of activism for me. And, we started going to all the demonstrations in Toronto. We got beat up coming home from a demonstration in Toronto. Times changed, and, you'd be out drinking and people would come into the bar and go, the police are hassling, and you'd run, you'd go out and go to where the demonstration was, or they busted the baths. And so it was like, how could you not, was I guess the thing. How could you not? Like, and I'm sure there were lots of people that didn't, but it was a time that you felt things are changing, I guess, So that's where activism came from for me, and that's continued, it just continued. Yeah. Because I had to.
Yeah.
And in my personal life too, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
I get really freaked out internally when I think about that story of getting beat up on your way home. Like that's terrifying.
We were walking up Yonge Street, and, they told us it was a demonstration down in Dundas Square. They always said, please don't walk home alone, so we weren't. There were about 4 of us, and we were walking up Yonge Street, and the car drove past us and yelled, faggots, and I yelled, fuck off. And then all of a sudden, these guys behind us, who I'd said nothing to, they just threw my buddy onto the street and me, and he broke his nose, and it was just like, we weren't talking to you. Who cares? You're faggots. And it's scary.
Oh, that's very scary. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that word is such a violent word, in my opinion, faggot. Yeah, that was a word that was used to me a lot growing up.
Is that right? Yeah.
By my brother.
Yeah.
And, we've read...
Your brother straight?
Yes, we've talked about it, and, there's been a lot of forgiveness towards that, but a product of the times, growing up in the 90s, early 2000s.
Yep.
That was a word that was used a lot back then. And,
yes, it was.
That's one of the biggest reasons why, I felt like I couldn't belong to myself. And why I still technically haven't told my parents, even though I feel like I don't need to tell my parents because, they're my parents. They already know.
Right.
But that is one of those words that really brings me back into my childhood body and sends me into another fight or flight response where I just feel like, oh my God, protect myself.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yes.
I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a terrifying word when you hear it on the street, or, it's like all your spidey senses go right up immediately. And it's like, who's saying that?
Yeah.
Where is that being said to? Who is it being said to? Mm-hmm. That being said, I have no interest in getting close to that kind of violence if I can help it, but...
Yeah, it really just makes me think about John Koenig again, who says that words aren't real. They're just things that we pour ourselves into. And when people force you into words, it's such a violent act because we have to choose our words, right? That's kind of part of how we find ourselves. how we discover ourselves is we discover the words that define our experience.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, for me, faggot or gay, when it's used in that way, feels like, yeah, some violence being forced upon me.
Yeah, I understand and appreciate it as well. I think why, although I personally love the word queer, because I find it, I can't do all of those letters. And queer just, for me, encompasses the whole thing, which gay and lesbian used to be able to do. And now I understand that we're all sorts of different kinds. But if we don't have a sort of a thing to hold us together, and for me, that's queer. But I understand certainly my elder brothers, or even not elder, but people who've been called that most of their life and hate the word. So they can't accept,
Because it's been weaponized, right?
Yep.
And that's something I've come to know is that, like, our body remembers the trauma, right? Even if, like, our mind forgets the reason why, our body remembers. And so, yeah, I love the fact that, a lot of people are taking back that word. I've been hearing it a lot lately amongst my friends as well, and I love that they feel as though it's something they can pour themselves into. But yet, I have those moments too with that word, with queer. It's like, it's not quite right. Maybe I could pour myself into it. Maybe I could nowadays feel safe to pour myself into that word. But something's just not quite right. Like, I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, then you don't pour yourself into it yet.
Right? Yeah.
Or the word will come that feels right for you, I think. I'm beginning to understand, I think, that the gender variance and all of it, it's just this freedom of expression. Just, it doesn't happen often, but if it did, if I had some really red lipstick and I wanted to wear it out and go for a walk, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I be able to do that? Because I see that occasionally on people, it's just like, you fucking go.
Yeah.
And, if I have the wherewithal or if I feel comfortable, I'll often say, you look great, especially if somebody's like really, you can tell that they're like pink hair and they're wearing a fucking fabulous outfit. And it's like, way to go. You look fantastic today. Thank you. Because you've given me a lift just by looking at you because you're so fucking brilliant. You're a peacock. And in a grimy industrial world.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
I'm going to pause it here. I think it's a natural pause or shift in the conversation, so I'm going to save that for next week. I just want to thank you for listening, and I hope that there's some insights and some beauty that you heard in this conversation, as I have, definitely. I just want to say thank you to Allan Morgan for making your podcast debut here on the Dear Brambling podcast, and for this beautiful conversation. I'm so excited to dive into the next part. So stay tuned for next week. And you know what? Yeah, we're going to keep this short and sweet. I'll see you next week with the next part. And thanks so much, guys. I really do appreciate you. Bye for now. The Dear Brambling podcast is a podcast dedicated to my little bramblings, to the next generation of humans growing up in the world, as well as to anyone who might be looking for a little more guidance in their life. It is hosted by me, Luc Benoit. Editing and sound design are by Cedar Picture and Sound, MB Productions, and Hideout Productions. The music that you're listening to is called Curiosity, and it's composed by Matthew Grazier at Grazier Music. The logo was designed by Misaki at Hostess Misaki on Twitch TV. And if you'd like to follow me on any social media, you can do so on Twitch as well as on Instagram at Lucatronosaurus Rex. And to anyone who is listening to the podcast this far in, I just want to say thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I really do appreciate it. I do, however, need to say that this podcast was brought to you for education and entertainment purposes and should not be used as a substitute for actual licensed coaching, counseling, or therapy. If you are experiencing some sort of pain in your life and you need some help, I definitely recommend shopping around for the right coach, counselor, or therapist that is right for you. With all that being said, I really do hope that you're doing something today to take care of yourself, and I do hope that you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.